ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. Drive.
Elmore deep, left side three is good! From 30 feet, John Elmore!
The Drive with Paul Swann.
Same show. Welcome in. It is The Drive here at the Union Pub and Grill. We're at 1125 4th Avenue in Huntington. We'll take your phone calls this hour. 877-420-TALK, 877-420-8255. And, of course, the Monday special, $1.50 bottles, $2 call shots, and championship game tonight, Michigan and Villanova. Where would you rather be? You can watch all the action right here at the Union Pub and Grill, and of course the great Monday specials on top of that. So this is definitely where you want to be tonight to watch the championship game. And if of course you can't watch that, we've got you covered right here on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. So coming up on the program later on, I'm going to talk to Mark Martin from WCHS Television, get his thoughts on Little Herd football. Also, we'll talk some Marshall baseball with him. So that's what's coming up. And, of course, your phone calls. So let me get you started. I wanted to do this on Friday. I didn't have a chance to because we had Pirates baseball, and it goes into extra innings. So we didn't have a show. We were kind of squeezed in between Pirates baseball and Marshall baseball on Friday. Didn't have a chance to talk to you. So we changed things up a little bit today. Freshening things up. It's a new show, but it's still what you love about the show. And, you know, we might change a few things up, do a few new things. But at its core, it's still the Tri-State's best place for local sports. We just changed the name a little bit. So it's now called The Drive. And if you are a subscriber on the podcast, you will see that change. You'll also notice that everything switched over for you. So we have a new podcasting host, we have a new name, and everything is fresh and new, but still the same. Best way I can describe it. So I'm excited about it. It's been a long time with First Century Bank. We thank them as they are no longer with us, and we are moving on to doing bigger and better things with the program. And, of course, it's still about you at 877-420-TALK, 877-420-8255. So that's where we're at with that now. So if you kind of tuned in and went, whoa, this is new. Yes, it is new, and I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to it. Years ago, I used to do a sports show called The Sports Table. And as that kind of evolved, it turned into a show called Sports Talk with Paul Swann. And then when I came over here to Kendrick Indications, of course, I partnered with my good friend Woody. And we did a great show for many years, and I tried to get him down here today. He's been working on something for us at the company, and I tried to get him down here today at the Union Pub and Grill. Could not do it. I'm going to try to in the future, but have fun with him doing that show for all those years. And so now this is sort of the soft reopening of what we're doing here on the station, and it's called, again, The Drive with Paul Swann. I'm excited for everything, and, of course, we're going to have everything you love right here. But again, today at the Union Pub and Grills, where I'm at, the $1.50 bottles, the $2 call shots, this is where you need to be tonight. And we've got the game for you. I didn't think it would get to this, Michigan and Villanova. I thought Villanova would be there. I didn't see Michigan really coming. I'm a little surprised about that. But then again, I didn't expect Loyola Chicago to be in the Final Four. But did you watch any of the Final Four? Because it just wasn't exciting. The Loyola Chicago-Michigan game was not fun to watch. And then watching Villanova just manhandle Kansas, that was not fun to watch in a different way. There's really not much offense going on in that first game with Michigan and Loyola Chicago, and Villanova just doing what they do. They are the best team in college basketball right now, so I would be immensely surprised if Michigan wins the title tonight. Villanova is going to be your national champion unless something freakish happens. Sort of almost anticlimactic, and we've had a great tournament so far with upsets and teams that haven't been there in a long time. Cinderella had a ride with Sister Jean. I mean, she's the best Cinderella representing Loyola Chicago. And to see that run in was kind of sad, but at the same time, you celebrate that because you can look at, okay, here's another one. Here's another mid-major. Unfortunately, I don't think this is going to lead to a mid-major renaissance. You're just going to have programs that play above where they're supposed to be as far as the overall viewpoint, standings, rankings, whatever you want to call it. Loyola Chicago, you look at that team and say, okay, if your basketball program and you get a great group of guys together, you get together a really solid team, and you have a solid core nucleus of coaching and players, you can make a run. And that's what a lot of people are hoping happens with Marshall basketball. That, okay, getting to the NCAA tournament, that was step one. Winning a tournament game, that was step two. Now, step three is getting back to the NCAA tournament. Step four is winning another game in the NCAA tournament. Step five is getting to the Sweet 16. And then repeat and move on and move forward and move forward. Try to be a program that's always making the NCAA tournament, winning games, potentially getting to the Sweet 16, because then all of a sudden something could happen. You could find yourself in the Elite Eight. Or you could find yourself, if you really get hot, in the Final Four. It's not impossible. And I think that's what's happening here with more of these mid-majors, you want to call them that, are finding that basketball is really a great sport for your program if you can devote the time, energy, and resources and build. I mean, you're not going to see that kind of success on the football field. Doesn't matter. You might have a program that makes it to a New Year's Six Bowl, and that's great. But I don't think you're going to see that happen on a consistent basis on the football level compared to basketball. You can find a basketball program from a mid-major making a run every year, and I just think it's more exciting for the game itself. But, of course, the Final Four, not that exciting. The women's Final Four, however, probably the more exciting of the two right now, and Notre Dame winning it on a last-second shot, making a strong case for women's basketball that it is an exciting brand of basketball. And I'm not going to try to sell you on the game because you either are or you are not on board already. And if you needed some evidence to why it's a good game, go back, watch the Final Four, go back, watch the national championship, and you'll see some really strong and exciting basketball being played by the women. And let's hope that the championship game lives up to close to what the women's championship game and the women's Final Four was able to bring. So we come back from break. We're going to talk to Mark Martin from WCHS-TV. We'll talk Marshall football with him, also basketball, and, of course, he's a pretty good source when it comes to high school football and high school sports in general. So we'll talk to Mark when we continue. You're listening to The Drive with Paul Swann at the Union Pub and Grill on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
.com. Sponsored by the West Virginia Army National Guard. Aired by the West Virginia Broadcasters Association and this station.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Welcome back. Paul Swann, your host, joining you today from the Union Pub and Grill, 1125 4th Avenue in Huntington, where the Monday special, $1.50 bottle, $2 call shots. Already got a good crowd here getting set later on for the national championship game between Michigan and Villanova. If you're looking for a place to watch it, come on down to the Union Pub and Grill, 1125 4th Avenue in Huntington, the place to be. Also, we have a game for you coming up tonight starting at 6:30 right here on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. Let's welcome to the program now. He's the sports director at WCHS Television. He is also one of the long-standing voices of sports in this region. He's Mark Martin. He's now with us on the program. How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing well, Paul. Does that mean I'm old?
No, that means you are legendary.
Oh, you're too kind. You do comment on my clothing a lot. So who do you take, me or Jay Wright?
I'm taking you.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
I always roll with you.
I appreciate it. Okay, I appreciate that. Jay Wright's a pretty sharp dresser.
He is, but I don't think he puts the heart and conviction into it that you do. Also,
do you think Jay? What's that?
I was going to say, do you think Jay Wright is going to stand on the sideline of a football field on Friday night dressed in a suit?
Well, you may have a point there, but like Coach Beeline, he's very classy too, dresses nice too. But man, Coach Beeline, he's like the lunch pail guy. Man, the minute the game starts, he takes that jacket off, rolls those sleeves up, and unbuttons the tie, and he's ready to go. So it'll be two different styles there from a wardrobe standpoint tonight.
On wardrobe alone, who do you give the victory to?
Well, I hate to boast here, but Kenny Bass just put out our pool at work, and I won. I've already won.
What?
And yeah, and I picked Virginia to win it all. I thought I was doomed when that happened, but I guess everything else that happened around that, I had 3 out of the 4 in the Final Four. Virginia being not being one of those, being the other one, and I had them to beat. But I guess since I had Nova in the championship, if they shoot like they did the other night, I don't know if anyone can beat them. That was impressive. But, of course, I always enjoyed the relationship with Coach Beeline when he was at West Virginia. So kind of like see him get one. But I tell you what, that Villanova team's pretty darn good.
Yeah, they're pretty solid. And I, unfortunately, am waiting for the victory tonight of Villanova to finish in 3rd place in the Office Pool.
There you go.
Place.
There you go. Yeah, I don't know how it happened because, I play it pretty safe to the best in those. And so I guess I did, like I said, when Virginia got beat that night, I was like, well, that's the end of that. So I guess others had a lot of such the same luck. So somehow it worked out. So anyway, so that was happy to find that out.
Yeah, I was one Duke victory away from having almost a clear shot at this.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Well,
I needed Duke.
It gets tough down there to the Elite Eight, We were talking, What do you think's the toughest to lose? The national championship game or an Elite 8 game?
I think if you are most programs, if you lose an Elite 8 game, that hurts because it's really, once you get to the Final Four, there's no bad basketball being played. You've almost made it there.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's something you can hang your hat on for a long time, and you always ask yourself, will we ever get that chance again? So I think it's. I think, of course, then I guess once you get there, then the next thing is you want to win it all. So, but I think just missing out on the Final Four, it's got to be that's pretty gut wrenching.
Yeah, that's basically it. You miss out there. You don't get to go to the championship weekend, and everyone makes a big deal about you if you go. You get some hardware because you win your bracket because we are basically looking at 4 different brackets. You win your side of the bracket, you get some hardware for that.
Yeah, you sure do. Yeah, and another week's worth of free publicity. I mean, look what that's done for Loyola Chicago here in the last few weeks. Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
They don't have local radio in Chicago.
Is that right?
Yeah,
I'm sure that may change.
Yeah, I think that will. I talked to their TV guy, and they're on NBC Sports Comcast. I believe that's where they're at. But they don't have radio, and that definitely is going to change because they just couldn't find anybody to pick them up. So they have TV, and I guess that's all they need, but that will change, I hope.
I was going to say, I guess in a big city like that, it's hard-pressed to, you're fighting for publicity in some of those big cities when you get the pro teams and, even playing second fiddle probably to DePaul and it's a little different. So, either way, what a run for those guys.
How would you like to be the marketing team for Loyola Chicago right now? Just thinking, this is great, but can't wait till next year because now people know who we are and we can go out and people will take our phone calls or people will talk to us now. And how much money have they made off of Sister Jean already with trademarking everything about her?
Oh, my goodness. I mean, it's crazy. Well, and again, it goes to show you that, Marshall is not that far away from playing in the Final Four. I mean, it can happen. Not that we didn't think it couldn't before, but those programs, it just any, once you get in that thing, you don't know what's going to happen. And we certainly know good things are in store for that program. That being Marshall.
You've seen a lot of basketball this year. If this nucleus comes back now, of course, Elmore, you've got Penova, C.J. Burks, they're testing the waters, but in all reality, they're coming back for another season of Marshall basketball. You add some size, some depth. Can they make another run? Do you think that they've got it in them?
Oh, there's no question. I mean, now that they've tasted it, it's kind of like I heard an interview this morning with John Beeline. He said, boy, once you got there in 2013 and so close to winning a championship, he said, at that time you were really happy and you loved every sad you lost, but you were happy to get there. But he said, but then, you sort of sit back and reflect, and now the hunger is even greater. And I think that's going to be the case now. I mean, not that they weren't hungry. I mean, certainly they wanted to. We've been hearing Coach D'Antoni talk about that since the day he was hired. He wants to play in the NCAA tournament and not just get there. He wants to win it all, and that's the way you got to shoot. And man, it happened. And and now with a great cast of returners and blend some guys in with them, and obviously the crowds were fantastic. And certainly they can be better. I mean, because you just want to see that place filled up. And he's an outstanding coach. He's positive. I love talking to the guy. I like being around him. He just exudes confidence, and he's got a great coaching staff. And and of course, being West Virginia natives, you love that factor of it too. 8 players on the roster from West Virginia, 3 coaches with Coach D'Antoni, Coach Klein, and Coach Jackson. And I mean, man, it was just a wonderful, wonderful season. It was a lot of fun to. It's been a lot of fun to be around all the seasons, but definitely that was something to remember.
Mark Martin is our guest from WCHS-TV. I'm Paul Swann, your host of. By the way, Mark, you're the first guest on the rebranded show. We've changed things up starting today. It's now known as The Drive with yours truly.
Cool.
So you get to be the first guy. That can go down as a trivia question maybe 20, 30 years from now.
I'm the guinea pig.
You're the first guy, yeah.
I was going to ask you, I'm off today. I said, are you allowed to drink on this show? I'm having my favorite drink of all. That's unsweetened iced tea, so I hope that's allowed.
I think you're allowed, especially since we're here at the Union Pub and Grill. And by the way, Mark, if you ever come down as a guest, the Monday special is $1.50 bottles and $2 call shots.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm more of a food guy than a drink guy, but
we got a kitchen.
I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, like I said, you pour me some iced teas, and you're going to have me there for a while.
we can do that too. We got everything you need here.
Okay. Yeah, I don't even take sweetener. I mean, I actually went to a place this morning and got a tea to go, and I know for certain I said unsweet, and man, I got sweet, and it was a shock to the system. But I survived. I'm okay.
Mark Martin is our guest. I'm Paul Swann. Welcome to The Drive with Paul Swann here today at the Union Pub and Grill. So
I'm sure you called me to talk iced tea, didn't you?
I did, actually. I don't know if you knew that. Actually, I think that's going to be you and me having a podcast where we drive around just checking out the iced tea everywhere.
Iced tea, man. Gotta love it,
Mark Martin, the iced tea connoisseur, and of course, no iced tea at Marshall football this week, but it's starting to heat up. So maybe some iced tea will be brought out. We've already had a few practices, and already you're thinking to yourself, this team's going to be better than they were last season. And of course, we always say that during spring practice. But what's been your impression as we get through week number 1 of Marshall football in the spring?
Well, I didn't really have. I didn't get to go to any. We went down to one. I had C.J. Harvey go down to one. Just kind of looked at the the tape that we had, and obviously there's some guys there that you know about, and certainly everybody wants to talk about the quarterback situation because I think most didn't think that might be a question mark going into the season, and certainly there's a couple of guys there. One guy that's got some experience that got thrown into the fire, not last season, but season before last, Garrett. And so then you throw Isaiah in there. And so now you kind of, got a couple of guys there, they're trying to, sell themselves here in the spring because then you're going to have a newcomer arrive once fall camp begins. But, so that's always, something that jumps out at you. And, got some new coaches, some new blood, on the staff, and that makes things interesting. Some good storylines there, and but I think there's some really good players coming back. In the backfield, got some great receivers. Up front, some really good guys there that played a lot of snaps. You always love it when you got your center back. And then, boy, you flip it over on the defensive side, and they threw a lot of bodies in there last year. Some really good players, and I think just there's a lot of great stories with all these guys, but man, the story of Chase Hancock is about as good as it gets when you got a guy that was a walk-on, and last season he's the team MVP, and he's back, and just a great young man, and he's kind of going to lead the way, and kicking game, got some things to discuss there, and it's the spring, and it's the time that as a coach, and they're just talking to coaches and just having played some football back in my day. I mean, there's just nothing like being out there on the field. And this is the time they get a chance to just teach and coach, and sure, they're thinking about things, and there's not a day that goes by they're probably not working on something. They are that is going to be implemented into game situations. But I think just an exciting time as a coach, because I think one of the great things about coaching is that you're always somewhat starting over, and you're always excited about what's coming, and recruiting's the lifeblood, and man, you've worked your tail off to get certain people in there, and now it's their time, and you can't wait to see what they're ready to do. So and as we know, Coach Holliday and his staff, it's a great bunch of recruiters there led by Coach Holliday, and so I think I think the future's real bright, real excited, and can't wait. I mean, and we'll blink and we'll be in Oxford, Ohio.
Mark Martin's our guest. Of course, he is on the Thundering Herd IMG Sports Network with Steve Cotton. On the radio side, also does a lot of television covering the Thundering Herd, not only for a lot of the games you get to watch on Herd Vision, but for WCHS-TV. And Mark, do you think this is the year that maybe this football team gets people excited to the point where we're at now with basketball? I know it's apples and oranges when you compare the two sports, but I kind of felt like basketball really was able to tap into more excitement from Marshall fans than football has in the last few years.
Well, I kind of live by the thing, with what we do, we're sort of taken away somewhat from being, fans, but at the same time, we are fans, but I just never have understood how you don't get excited regardless of the situation. I mean, you wait all season. Let's take football, for example. You play 12 games. You hope to play in the conference championship, and you hope to be in a bowl game. That being so, you're only going to get, out of the year, there's only 14 football games they're going to play, and I don't know how you don't get excited every Saturday to go watch your team play. And the same could be said. Now, there are definitely a few more basketball games to be played, but at the same time, and if you don't travel, then, you scale that back a little bit on the football side and certainly on the basketball side. So I just, I think you ought to be excited all the time. That's just me. I mean, I know I can't wait for, one season to start and the next one to begin. And it's just, I'm already just excited thinking about, certainly football is going to be here first, but, I'm excited about that. And just as you talked there a little bit ago about what returns in basketball, you get excited about that. So I just feel like if you're really that true fan of the Thundering Herd or whoever the team is you follow, my goodness, you just want to enjoy every second of it that you can, and that's why I just I scratch my head a little bit sometimes when I maybe don't see the crowds that maybe I feel should be there, and you hope they are, because again, it's good football, it's good product, and you should want to be a part of it and go to every game that you possibly can make it to.
Mark Martin's our guest from WCHS-TV, and Mark, you bring up a good point. It scratched my head sometimes as well, thinking, why don't you see more people showing up just to support the Herd? But there were a lot of coaching changes. A lot of guys moved on, and a lot of new faces come in to try to take over. And I think it's fair to say that there was a love-hate relationship with some of the coaches on Doc Holliday's staff, for right or wrong, for better or worse. There were some times when Herd fans would just throw their hands up and discuss the way that something maybe happened on the offensive side of the ball, not so much on the defensive side, but you know what I'm talking about. There was just a group of fans that just, whatever Marshall did, it was not good enough.
Well, it was, and kind of unfortunate, I think. But the way I look at it is, and I don't want to sit here and act like I was an All-American college football player, but I did play college football, and I was around coaches all the time, and I played at a small college level, and I just saw the amount of work that these guys put in, day out. And, not only in season, off season, recruiting, and it just never ends. And, for anyone to think, someone's not trying or, someone doesn't, they're there every day. They practice every day. They see what they feel. They're the ones in the film room. They're the ones that, hey, I think this is what's going to work to give us success. Now, that may not always happen. There's a team over there trying to stop you or vice versa. But I never have really bought into that. Like, how can someone think that, why are they calling that or why? Well, there's a real good reason why, because they've studied it, left and right, hours upon hours upon hours. So, I just have tremendous respect for coaches. I mean, I grew up around, just from the time I played T-ball until, my senior year of college football to, now being in broadcasting and writing all these years just around coaches and just have the utmost respect for that profession and what they do. And, it's like anything. It's like, what we do or what anyone does, doctors, lawyers, school teachers, whatever. It, from the outside looking in, it may be it looks easy. You think, well, why aren't they doing that? Until you get in there, you don't really have an idea why. You don't know why they're doing it that way until you walk in their shoes. So
Mark Martin is our guest. Go ahead, Mark.
And I know you know that we get questioned on what we do sometimes.
But that's okay. That's called good radio and good television when we get questioned.
Right.
The thing is,
but you see my point, though. I mean, I
do.
But I think, but at the same time, I mean, hey, you got new coaches now, so you turn the page and you see what will transpire here, and we'll find out here in the next few months. No question about it. But again, that's a really neat fraternity, and and these people know each other, and there's just a lot of good that comes from these guys, and I think by and large, over the years, there's just been a lot of good coaches come through. Let's just say Marshall, and just to keep these programs alive and keep them going and have success. And right now, there's a lot of success going on, certainly in Huntington, and not just football and basketball, but certainly, those are two sports that people definitely are locked in on year in and year out.
Mark Martin's our guest from WCHS-TV, Charleston, Huntington. Mark, you cover the Thundering Herd a lot. You're all over the place with football and basketball and everything in between, but how do you find time to do all of that, then all the high school sports coverage you do, and then I still see you on Saturdays. You've got like 15 shows on the weekends, so that's what you do.
One of them's about to end, so we got one more Saturday Sports Showcase, and then that comes to a close, and we closed the Marshall shows a few weeks ago. But I don't know, you just make it happen. It's labor of love, and I've been very fortunate to over the years, just whatever job I had, I've always just felt like that was the job, and it's what I wanted to do for a long time. Actually, the choices were broadcasting and coaching. So, and probably thank goodness for the coaching fraternity. Maybe I probably made the best choice. I don't know what kind of coach I would have turned out to be, but I just thoroughly enjoy it. Feel lucky, and made a lot of great friends like yourself, and just I think all of us in the profession, we're all close. Have a lot of respect for one another, and then definitely to just be around. As I mentioned earlier, just be around some of the coaches I've had a chance to meet through the years. It's just been, it's been wonderful. So I never, it's like anything. So once you get tired of it, and you don't want to do it anymore, but I don't know. I think someone asked me one day, just a friend of mine said, "When do you think you'll retire?" I said, "Retire? What are you talking about?" I was like, first of all, I don't think I'm old enough to do that. I said, "I don't know. When they throw me out, I guess."
See, the question here is
hopefully that's a long time for them to throw me out if they do.
Yeah, the question here is, what would you do after you retire? Plus, you work in broadcasting, so retiring's out of the question.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. I can't imagine. It's fun. You look forward to going. If you look forward to going to work every day, then to find something you like and you're passionate about. You're never going to work a day in your life. And that's how it's been with me. And so I feel pretty lucky about that. I know, talking to Doc a lot. Doc always says, man, he goes, get up in the morning. He said he kisses Diana goodbye, and he just says, feels like he's the luckiest guy in the world to go get to do what he does, and that's be a coach all these years, and certainly the last several to be the head football coach at Marshall University. And I know Coach D'Antoni, feels the same way. He's back home. High school coach for 30 years in Myrtle Beach, and then went and coached with his brother for 10 years. Which had, both of those were, I know, great experiences for him. And then, he created the Beach Ball Classic in Myrtle Beach. And, what better place to live than Myrtle Beach for 30 years, and then to go and coach in the NBA, and then to come back and, guide your alma mater and do it at a high level, which they definitely have, and a very entertaining level. I mean, that's you just can't ask for much more than that. So I'm happy for those guys, and certainly happy I get to do what I get to do. And I'm sure you sort of feel the same way, Paul. You grew up right there in that area and went to school there, and get to get up every day and kind of zero in on happenings with Marshall and in the tri-state where you're very familiar with and very fond of. So that's a great thing.
Mark Martin's our guest from WCHS-TV. Before we let you go, Mark, anything that you're working on that you want folks to know about, to tune in, or anything coming up program-wise?
Well, actually, at the moment, Paul, I'm actually taking a week off and just going to kick back. I'm going to watch the game with a couple of coaches tonight. One of my dear friends, Mick Price, who's the longtime head basketball coach at Ravenswood High School. He had his team in the state championship again this year, and he's this was his 40th season as the head coach at Ravenswood High School. And I told Mick, I said, I love to remind him of this. I said, you realize you came to Ravenswood when I was a senior in high school? And then also another dear friend of mine, Randy Anderson. Randy's a Ripley guy. Randy's in town. Randy's father just passed away recently, so Randy's in town to visit with his mom, and he's going to swing by. And as you probably know, Randy, guided Boyd County into the Sweet 16 of Kentucky here just recently, and he got beaten overtime by Fern Creek, and Fern Creek got beat. Or was it Ferns Creek or Fern Creek? I never can remember. I think it's Ferns Creek, and they got beat by Covington Catholic, and then Covington Catholic went on and won it all. So Randy had a great season there, and at Boyd County. He's been there a long time and done a great job. So, again, there I am hanging out with coaches even though I'm off.
Stop it. Just stop. And you're hanging out with me on your day off, too. You're not doing it right.
So, we'll have a good time. It's always great to sit around and watch basketball with guys like that. But, watching that Villanova game the other night, I was just like, my goodness gracious. I mean, that's tough to stop. So, so I guess Nova's my favorite to win it, but certainly would love to see Coach Beeline get a victory tonight too.
Mark Martin, our guest, WCHS-TV. Mark, good catching up with you. We'll do it again soon.
Paul, you too, brother. Good talking to you, buddy. We'll talk to you soon, okay?
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Okay, see you, Paul.
That is Mark Martin from WCHS-TV. We're going to take our next break, come back. We're live here at the Union Pub and Grill. It is 1125 4th Avenue in Huntington for our Monday edition of The Drive here on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Back to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
We're coming to you today from the Union Pub and Grill, 1125 4th Avenue in Huntington. Today's Monday special, $1.50 bottles, $2 call shots, and, of course, the national championship game coming up tonight. You want to watch it with a bunch of your friends? Well, this is where you need to be. It's the Monday special and, of course, the championship game all in the same place, the Union Pub and Grill, 1125 4th Avenue in Huntington. To the Drive. I'm your host, Paul Swann, and we're taking your phone calls at 877-420-TALK, 877-420-8255. And, of course, if you can't watch the national championship game, you can listen to it right here on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930, and we'll recap it all tomorrow. It's going to be an exciting finish, and it's going to be a lot better than the Final Four was a few days ago. So, here we are on the cusp of baseball season. It's just started for the majors. Minor league baseball started ramping up soon. Baseball for college is going on. Softball is rolling on, and not so much of a good outing for the Thundering Herd on the scoreboard side. They had a 3-game series against Florida International, and they win the first one 10-9, but then they lose 10-2 and then 9-5. Now they're going to go into a 2-game set that's going to be tomorrow over at Dot Hicks softball field, taking on St. Francis out of PA, and that'll be 1 and 3 o'clock. So if you're looking for some afternoon softball, there you go. But the Thundering Herd is looking for some wins right now. They lost the series against Florida Atlantic. They lose that, and then they lose the series against Florida International. Record right now is not exactly what you expect for a Marshall softball team. Now, granted, this is a new transition here, new coach transitioning over into what this team is going to be in the future. They're sitting right now, and I'm not used to these kind of numbers for a Marshall softball team. This is tough for me to get used to. 15-18-1, 3-9-1 on the road, 5-2 at home, and conference are 6-5, and with 1 tie, 7-7 on neutral softball fields. Still to come for this softball team as they're looking for some wins here. They have got, after that St. Francis series, they've got UTSA in Texas. Then they're going to come back home for a couple against Morehead State. And then a few days later, they'll still be at home. They've got a 3-game set with Charlotte. They've got a 2-game set with James Madison on the road against Western Kentucky and Bowling Green. And then they've got a one-off with Ohio, a couple of games against Pittsburgh. They got to go from Athens, Ohio to Pittsburgh. Thankfully, there's a few days in between, but they've got an interesting road trip there. And then, I don't know how this worked out. If scheduling was something it was easy, everyone would be doing it. But they go from Athens, Ohio, then they got to go to Pittsburgh a few days later, and then they got to come back from Pittsburgh and take on Louisville for a one-off on the road. Then they finish out the regular season against Middle Tennessee State. So that's the good news there. But Athens to Pittsburgh to Louisville, you almost wish you could work that a little different there. But you're going from one extreme to the other. At least there's a few days in between that. So it's kind of been rough for the softball team. Still plenty of softball to be played. And, of course, if you want to keep tabs on that tomorrow, you can go to herdzone.com and keep an eye on that as well. Of course, baseball, you can keep an eye on that on the website as well. And, of course, we'll tell you all about it because what's coming up for the Thundering Herd, as we mentioned, they've got the softball, and then they've got baseball, as we mentioned, against Morehead State. They will also have some action coming up soon against Middle Tennessee State. Going by the schedule here, softball's going to be at UTSA, so you've got some options there for the Thundering Herd. So that's going to almost do it for this edition of the show. Again, I want to remind you we're at the Union Pub and Grill, 1125 4th Avenue in Huntington, where today's specials, $1.50 bottles, $2 call shots. We'll be back in the studio tomorrow for the regular edition of the show. But, hey, the national championship game, looking for a place tonight. This is going to be it. We'll have the game for you. Hopefully it's going to be a lot better than it was the other day with the Final Four. Kansas just at times just did not look like they were on the same level as Villanova. That Michigan, Loyola, Chicago game, that was just not fun to watch in so many different ways. I'm sure you like defense. If you like defense, I like defense in football, maybe not so much in basketball. I'm almost with Dan D'Antoni to a degree. You want to play some defense, but I don't need that much defense. Give me a little bit more offense, and at least they haven't gone to anything crazy yet, like the NIT did by changing it up midstream and saying, okay, we're going to experiment with the 4 quarters. I don't know if that's going to help the game as well, but we'll see if they make a change eventually in the men's game, play it the way they play in the NBA and all other levels, try to match it up a little bit. I think that was maybe some wanting to match that up, just keep them in sync. I kind of like the half, first half, second half. I kind of like that. That, to me, is get a little bit more flow, but I understand what they're trying to do, speed the game up a little bit, but still, give me some offense. Let's hope we get that tonight. So that's what we've got coming back tomorrow. We'll have that to recap. And, of course, hey, don't forget, we got Pirates baseball. They're off tomorrow, and then they're going to be back in action on Wednesday. The Pirates are 4-0. Can you believe that? The Reds are terrible right now, and the Pirates are looking pretty good. I'm not going to say that the Pirates are going to go wire to wire here, but I'll take it right now for the Pirates. They're looking pretty solid, and we'll have all those games all season long. That's going to do it for this edition. I want to thank our producer tonight, Gabriel Sellers. I'm Paul Swann. We're coming to you live from the Union Pub and Grill. We're at 1125 4th Avenue in Huntington. Back tomorrow in the studio. Looking forward to that. And, of course, if you're looking for a place to watch the game tonight, come on down. Union Pub and Grill, 1125 4th Avenue, Huntington. We thank everyone here. That's going to do it for this edition. Don't forget, if you want to catch up on any episode of the show, all you have to do is go to our website at WRVC. You can go to Apple Podcasts and find us. It's real simple. Just search for The Drive with Paul Swann. That's going to do it here on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. Good night, everyone.
WRVC Huntington, W227BS Huntington, ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. Huntington Sports Station.